What is the primary purpose and responsibility of parents? To get their kids to heaven. That's our job, to help get our kids to heaven. Now, in order to do that, our job is not to build the house of our lives for our children. All right, what do I mean by that? Psalm 127, which is one of two psalms written by Solomon, the other one is Psalm 72. Solomon says, if the Lord does not build the house, in vain do the builders labor. So it's God's job to build the house of our children's lives with them. Our job is to lay a foundation upon which the house that the Lord will build with our children will stand strong and firm. Jesus talks about this in Matthew's Gospel, Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5 through 7. Toward the end of the Sermon on the Mount, he says this, everyone who hears these words of mine and does them. So it's not good enough just to hear what God is saying to us. We actually have to do what God is asking us to do to fulfill our mission to become disciples. Who hears the words and does them will be like a wise man who built his house upon the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house. But it did not fall because it had been founded on rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not do them will be like the foolish man who built his house upon the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. So what happens if we don't build a strong foundation in our children's lives? Their lives will fall apart, as Jesus says. Now, here's what I think the problem is. The problem is that parents, this is anecdotally, right, are transferring their responsibility of being the primary educators of their children in the faith and saying the schools will do it, Catholic schools will do it, youth group will do it, confirmation class will do it. And those are wonderful things, which I greatly support. But they are there to supplement, not take the place of what's supposed to be happening in the home. Now, here's the thing, before I start blaming parents. You can't give what you don't have. If someone said to me, Deacon, give me 20 bucks, and I reach into my wallet, and I go like, okay, 20 bucks, oh, it's empty, which it usually is. I can't give you what I don't have myself. So parents can't give to if the parents aren't living a deep, intimate relationship with Jesus Christ, what do they expect to pass on to the kids? So here's what parents do instead. We'll take them to soccer. We'll take them to volleyball. We'll take them to football and baseball and dance and all these other wonderful things, and we'll leave the teaching of the faith. And they don't pray at home. Maybe they'll do a bless us, O Lord, before they eat. Some of them will send their kids to Catholic school, but then never go to Mass. They won't show up here on Sunday, but they'll send the kid to Catholic school. What kind of message is that sending to the children? Here's the message they're receiving. All of us want our children to have a deep, intimate relationship with Jesus Christ. So they'll go to school and they'll learn things about Jesus here. They need to know it for the test in religion class coming up. So they learn about Jesus here. Then they go home where they're supposed to fall in love with Jesus. That's why St. John Paul II called the family the domestic church, the church of the home, because that is the place where children learn to fall in love with Jesus. But when they do go home, parents aren't praying. Maybe they're going to church every Sunday, maybe not. There's not a deep, lasting, abiding faith there. They're looking at the parents. What are the parents' priorities? Work, money, all this stuff, vacation. And where's the faith? So what's that teaching the kids? Okay, well, I'm learning about Jesus here, head knowledge, but they're not getting the heart knowledge. Most of these young people are not in love. Let me tell you the three big things I see with young people. I told you one of them yesterday, right? They want to hear the truth, but they're not hearing it. And I literally hear that all the time. Second, there is a serious disconnect between their faith and their everyday life. They have no idea what any of this has to do with their life every day out there. No connection. And third, and most tragic, they don't know the power of God's love in their lives. They have no idea how much God loves them. I'll drive this point home. A few years ago, I was speaking to 700 middle schoolers at an Archdiocese of Sydney, our Archdiocesan school event. And during that talk to those middle schoolers, I told them, you have no idea how much God loves you. When I got off the stage from that talk, there was a young priest waiting at the bottom of the steps. He was ordained for 3 years. He looked at me, he goes, "Deacon, let me drive home the point that you just made." He said, when I was first ordained 3 years ago, they put me in a Catholic high school because they figured young priests just ordained, they may get some vocations out of this thing. And I taught the religion class. And as an experiment one day, I wrote on the board, I believe in God, and on the other side, I don't believe in God. And I asked the students to stand under the statement that best represented what they believed. So he said about 90% of the kids got up and stood under the statement, I believe in God. And a few probably atheist kids or kids that are just there for an education, I don't believe in God. And some just sat at their desks. And he had them sit down. Then he wrote, he erased it, then he wrote, God loves me, God doesn't love me. And asked the students to do the same thing, stand under the statement that best represented what they believed. Father told me that none of the students stood under the statement that said, God loves me. Not one. A few students stood under the statement that said, God doesn't love me, but most of them just sat there because they weren't sure. How could they not be sure that God truly loves them? Because they're not seeing it being lived out at home. Now, let me tell you this. Before I start blaming parents again. It makes no excuse. It doesn't matter what your parental situation is. I was born in Barbados. We're immigrants to this country. My father was a very successful musician and nightclub owner, and he lived like one. My father has 15 other children from other women besides the 4 with my mother that we know of. So my parents ended up getting a very ugly divorce. And at the end of that time, when my father left, I helped my mother start taking care of our family. So, yes, I understand what is a broken home and divorce. You know, sometimes young people, when I tell the story about my dad, which I'm not going to do here, but when I tell that story, sometimes young people say, what is it like being a child of divorce? And I tell, well, I thought about that for a while. Then I came up with this. I thought about it. I said, well, marriage is a beautiful thing. It really is. But it's also the cross. And divorce is when the parents put the cross down and the kids pick it up. And that's not a place you ever want to be. But I had a mother who, by the way, Father's Day is coming up next weekend. And I cannot stand when people say things like, oh, happy Father's Day to all the fathers and all the moms that had to be dads. That's crap. Because let me tell you something right now. My mother understood. She was the strongest woman I've ever known to put up with the kind of abuse she did from my dad and be a strong woman coming out the other side as a strong woman. And I am the person I am today largely because of the example of my mother. But she understood she could not be a father to us. Women cannot be fathers. Today we celebrate the Immaculate Heart of Mary. The greatest human being ever created by God is a woman. The greatest example of what it means to be human is a wife and a mother. But even God knew that his son needed a father. That's why Joseph was there. He was not there as a substitute. He was there as a necessity. So my mother knew that we needed male figures in our life. So she put us in gangs, good gangs, altar servers, Boy Scouts, when the Boy Scouts were actually Boy Scouts. I will have nothing to do with them now because they are woke as hell. Scouting but it was such a huge part of my life growing up. Now I'm an Eagle Scout. So, I mean, and so she teaches the monks that taught me in high school, my wrestling coach, Mr. Mike DiPiano, all of these positive male role models in my life. So no excuse. So now what did I do? So I was a monk, and then I left monastic life. Why? Because my mom got sick, and she almost died. And so my siblings were like, what do we do? My sister's still in high school. Who's going to run the house? Who's going to pay the bills? Who's going to take care of my sister? I'm a monk. I can't just leave the monastery. But the abbot let me out of the monastery for 3 months to take care of my mom until she was able. She was a cardiac care nurse in Beth Israel Hospital in Newark. Some of you are familiar with Beth Israel. She worked as a CCU nurse for over 30 years. So the abbot let me out of the monastery to take care of her and my sister until she was able to go back to work. And during that time, I went to a wedding and met my wife. So God had a different plan. So what do I do now? I never thought I'd be married. I never thought I'd be a father in that kind of way. I thought because monastic, I was on the priesthood track. So I never thought about being, now I got kids. What do I do? Because I surely did not have a good example from my father. But I knew my job was to help get my kids to heaven. So here's what I did. When my girls turned 16, I took them on their first dates. Were all with me. Because I wanted to show them how to be treated by a man. Not a boy who's trying to get in their pants. How to be treated by a man. So I took them on their dates. And we dressed up. And we went out to dinner. And I gave them flowers. And opened a cart. Because I want the bar, for my girls, I want the bar to start here. Not here, like the culture, like that stupid Gillette commercial. The best a man can get. What garbage is that? The bar starts here. Chris was asking me yesterday, any of your kids married? Nope. Because they're still looking for a man who's going to take them to heaven. So wait as long as you need to. It starts here. So I took my girls on the dates. And why did I do that? Because at some point, a guy's going to come to my door. I want to take my daughter someplace when they're 30. And when that guy comes to the door, I'm going to do all the things that a good husband and father will do in that situation. I'll have my Glock out, shining it up when the guy comes to the door. And I'm going to talk to my daughter, give her a little talk. But let's be real. What I say to her in that moment is going to go in one ear and out the other because she's focused on that guy. What she's going to take out the door with her that night is the same thing she may take down the aisle with her one day. The same thing she may take into the convent with her one day. She is going to have 19 years of watching how I treat my wife. So the greatest gift I could ever give to my children is to do what St. Paul says in Ephesians 5:25. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. How did Christ show his love for the church? He died for her. He gave his life for her. So if I want my daughters to marry the man of her dreams, I better show her what one looks like. Because men, I'm emphasizing because Father's Day next week and I ain't going to be here. When you stood at that altar and you said, I do, what you really meant was, I die. I die to my selfishness. I die to my pride. I die to everything that separates me from God's love. Because your responsibility is to die to yourself and to live for your wife and your children. That's your job. not making money, not hanging out with your boys. Your job is to die. You have to see yourself on that cross. That's what we're called to as husbands and fathers, to give our lives every day and die for our wives and kids. Look, the greatest of all God's creation is a woman. There's no question or doubt about that. That's why she's created second, not last. Because some people say, that's what the Catholic Church, they treat women with disrespect, because even the Bible says she was created after the man. She's created last. No, the second. She's not created second. She's created last. In Genesis 1, all the animals, and then male and female, he created them. Not second, last. Genesis 2, which we'll talk about more in the next talk. The man, all the animals, and then the woman from his side, last. Then after God created woman, he goes, whew, I need a rest. Because women have why? She's the high point. She's the pinnacle. She's the cherry on the whipped cream of the ice cream of God's creation, is a woman. Why? A woman has a special intimacy with the Holy Spirit as a life giver and a life bearer. Even if a woman never has a child, she becomes a nun. By the very nature of how God created women, they have the potential to be life bearers and life givers in cooperation with the Holy Spirit in a way that we men cannot even understand or imagine. It's all about the woman. You think I'm lying? Check this out. You remember your wedding, right? I remember mine. I walked out from the sacristy. My best man were standing at the altar. People were looking at us. Nice tux. Then the ring bearer came in, the flower girl came in, the ring bearer came in, parents came in. Well, in our case, because my wife's father died when she was in college. So the mothers came in, and then the parties came in. Then there was silence. And all of a sudden, then she comes in. Everybody stands up. Everybody turns around. Oh, my God. Look at that dress. Oh, she's so beautiful. And you're standing there going, this is really happening. This is really happening. Right? And look, come on, let's be real. The whole time, the whole wedding mass, everybody's looking at her. Ain't nobody looking at you. Every time she gets up and the maid of honor has to move the train around, everybody's like, oh, look at that, so cool. It's all about her. And our job is to protect and defend the heart of love. That's our job. One of the ways you can't, and here's something that's driving me crazy in this digital world that we're living in today. I can't tell you how many times, because I get taken out to dinner a lot when I travel, how many times you're in a restaurant and you see entire families sitting there and everybody's on their phones. The mother and the father, the kids, and no one's looking at each other, no one's talking to each other. I'm saying to myself, what the hell are you here for then? What are you doing here? What's the point? Or sometimes they'll have the kid, 4 years old, 5 years old, on an iPad while the parents are doing their thing, and the kid, like, what are you doing? What kind of message that's sending to the kid? It's almost like these kids are addicted to their phones. It's like they can't imagine what their hand will look like without a phone in it. That's insane. But that's where we are today. Look, for me, people say, oh, D, I want to take you out to dinner. I want to take you out to lunch. Okay, fine. Let's go. So what happens is we'll go out to lunch or dinner. They'll do this. And I'll say, please put the phone away. Why? Well, you asked to spend time with me at lunch or dinner. And I don't have a lot of time, right? But okay, whatever, I'll say yes. So when you put that phone on the table, what that's telling me is whatever happens on that phone is more important than you spending time with me right now. So put it away. And when they do this, it ain't good enough. And in Toronto, They found out how serious I was. The guy wouldn't put away his phone. I got up and walked out and took a lift back to the hotel. Right? We are not slaves to technology. You know, the first exposure to pornography is now 8 years old. First, why? Because I'm not saying these are bad. I got a phone. But for what we have to, our young people have to understand, this is a tool. It is not your life. I do not walk around my house with my cell phone. I leave my cell phone in my office at home. Sometimes it upsets my wife. I was trying to text you. Where were you? I was downstairs. Did you see me? I'm like, nope, because my phone's in the office. I ain't walking around my house with my phone. And we have kids walking around with iPods in their ears at home. At home. Walking around, right? And here's the problem with all of this. When you're so caught up in the technology, you're so caught up in all the noise, you can't hear God's voice. That's the problem. You can't hear. Because when God speaks to you, God doesn't speak to you here. God speaks to you what St. Benedict called the aurum cordis, the ear of the heart. Here. In order to hear that voice, you have to be quiet. And we're deathly afraid of silence in our culture today. In fact, we are deathly afraid of silence in our own church. Now, I don't know I've never been to Mass here, so I'm not saying, but I've been to enough places where they're afraid of silence. For example, the first reading, Word of the Lord, thanks be to God. Responsorial Psalm. The responsorial Psalm, second reading. At the end, hallelujah, with no break. I'm like, time out, stop. God just spoke to us in his word. Can we take 4 seconds to allow that word to penetrate our hearts? We move on to the next thing. No, I love music. I played guitar in a jazz band at Notre Dame. I love music. All my kids are musicians. Music is very important in our house and in our family. But can we allow some time during communion for silence? The first communion song, the second communion song, the reflection song after the communion song. Where's the silence? Let's be real. For some people, when they receive the Eucharist at Mass, that's their only time for adoration. Is when they receive because they're not coming to Eucharistic adoration during the week. They're not coming to First Friday or First Saturday adoration. The only time they will ever have any silence after receiving Jesus at Mass. Why don't we build space for them? Because we're afraid. We're afraid of what the Lord is going to say to us. And with that attitude, no wonder our kids are a mess. What do we do for our kids? To teach them to appreciate silence. And in fact, that's one of the things I miss most about monastic life. Is, well, the simplicity of the life. Like, for example, like my bags are really heavy. It's a Christmas, like, damn, Deacon, what you got in this bag? It's heavy. Well, you know, if I was a monk, I just have a habit. If I was a priest, I just wear clerics. I got to wear a suit and ties and shirts and shoes. Monastic life, you get up, put a habit on, done. Easy. Or the silence. The grand silence after compline until after breakfast, complete silence in the monastery. Love that. I miss that. So what do we do for our kids? When you get home from school, before your snack, before you do your homework, sit on your bed for 10 minutes and say, God, what did you say to me today? Very simple. God, don't pick up your phone. Well, we didn't give them phones till they were in high school, by the way. Yeah, everybody's like, well, my friend has a phone. My friend has a phone. How come I don't have a phone? You don't need no phone. If something happens in grade school, you call. Well, if I don't have a phone to call, get your friend's phone and call us. you don't need to call, right? Now, high school is a different thing because high school was further away. It was across Portland's a river city that separates a river like Pittsburgh separates the city. So we have the bridge crossings. So that's much farther away. So that's a different story there. But they didn't get phones till they were in high school. And then only out of necessity. It's not their life. So they learn to appreciate that sign. 10 minutes. What did God say to me today? And every once in a while at dinner, I'd ask, hey, what did God say to you guys today? And I expect an answer. I expect an answer. So to foster times of silence is a way to fight. Now, let me tell you something for you, some of you, the teenagers here, about your phones. All right? Now, a lot of you guys think that when you delete stuff off your phone, it's gone. It's not. Let me give you a real life scenario. So I spent 11 years as a police chief on a college campus. During one of my years there, this is when I first discovered, not TikTok, but what's the other one? Snapchat. So a woman comes in, she's a junior, she's 20 years old. She comes in and says that this guy was sending pornographic pictures of himself to her. I said, really? I said, well, let me see the pictures. Well, they disappeared. Like, wait, what do you mean they disappeared? Because I'm thinking, I take a picture on my phone, picture's right there. So, oh, no, on Snapchat, they disappear after I forget how long. I said, oh, okay. So she goes away, and I contact the guy, and I bring him in. Do you know such and such? Yes. She's in your class? Yes. Well, she's making an accusation that you're sending pornographic pictures of yourself to her. And the young man puts his head down like this, and he goes, no. Let me tell you what's going on. He said, I'm a virgin, and I plan to stay this way until I'm married. But there are some girls in my class who think it's funny. They think it's a joke, and they're having a contest among themselves to see who can get me to break my vows before I get married. I'm not sending pictures to them. They're sending pictures to me. Really? Let me see the pictures. I can't. They disappeared. So now what do? I have he said, she said. I have no evidence. So I did this. I contacted the young lady again. I said, let me see what you want to, I understand what you want to do here. Do you want to file criminal charges? Or do you want to go through the university's internal discipline system? She said, I want to file charges, which is exactly what I wanted to hear. Because when I filed those charges, what did that allow me to do? Get a subpoena, not for the phone. I could care less about the phone. Guess what I subpoenaed? Snapchat's servers. Because you can delete stuff off your phone, but I know those companies, they keep everything. Took 2 weeks, but I got what I needed. So I'm sitting in my office. I called the young lady back in, and my desk, I'm here. I have a folder in front of me. She's sitting across from me. And I said, I'm just about finished my investigation. And you're not going to believe this, but that young man, when I brought him in here, told me that he wasn't sending pictures to you, that you were sending pictures to him. What? He said that. He's a liar. He's just trying to get out of trouble. You know what? I thought the same thing until I saw this. I slid a picture of her naked behind in front of her. Date, time, IP address from her phone to his phone. Where'd you get that? The same place I got this one. And this one. I just started sliding pictures in front of her. That white girl turned red. Now, there were a couple other photos of girls, different girls. I said, who are these young ladies? Well, I can't tell you that. They're my friends. I don't want to, I'm not a tattletale. I'm not getting, I said, let me tell you something right now. You're going to tell me who those other young ladies are, or you're going to be finding another place to go to school. And we end up throwing her out of school. Those companies keep everything. And let me tell you this. So many people that are applying for jobs now, they will look at your social media. When people were applying, men or women were applying for officers in my department, on the application, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I want your handles so we can, well, that's personal. No, it's not. If you won't fill it out Bye-bye. Application process is done. You're out. Bye-bye. They keep everything. So you need to think deeply and seriously about everything that you post on your social media accounts. Because you may think you want to be cool and your friends are making fun of this other person. It will come back to bite you. Now, why do I look at social media accounts? For example, I was working on a college campus. I have officers who are enforcing drinking laws and drug laws. If I go on that officer's account and I see them partying, getting drunk, I now lose. I have to defend the actions of my officers. How can I do that when this guy is in a drunken frenzy on his social media page and yet he's enforcing laws for our students and holding them accountable? What am I supposed to do now? See? So we have to really keep an eye and monitor our kids' social media. And that's your responsibility as parents. When my kids were young, when I gave them phones, I had all their passwords to all their accounts. If you weren't giving up, you ain't getting a phone, period. The problem is too many parents want to be their kids' friends. You're not their friends, you're their parents. They have friends. They need parents. And oh, Lord have mercy, when did this start? Calling adults by their first names. When did that start? You are a child. You don't get to call me as an adult by my first name. You haven't earned that right yet or respect. But when you introduce a kid to an adult, oh, here's Janet. Instead of here's Mrs. Smith or Miss Jackson, Miss whatever, this is Janet. What is that? And no wonder our kids have no respect for adults. And kids need to know there's consequences for their actions. I remember when we have 4 kids. We have 2 older girls and a set of twins, boy and a girl twins. And I remember my wife must have taken the older girls bra shopping or something crazy because I didn't want to be part of that, right? So it was a nice day. I said, twins, oh, let's go get some ice cream. Yay, Daddy. We jump into the car. We start driving to the ice cream place. They start fighting in the back seat. I said, oh, guys, stop. Stop. We're going to turn around and go home if you guys don't stop. They didn't stop. I turned around and started driving home. Oh, Daddy, we're sorry. We're going to stop now. Nope. You made your decision. I said, stop fighting or we're going to go home. You guys made the decision to continue to fight. So that told me I don't want ice cream today. So now we're going home. And I stuck with that decision. Now, what do you think happened the next time? When I said, because they have to learn there are consequences for their actions and their decisions. That's the lesson. Because kids are so entitled today. Well, I have a college degree, therefore I should have a job making this much money. You haven't earned that. You haven't earned that. When I first started out, because I got into law enforcement, I was at Notre Dame back in those days, the only people that got full scholarships, full academic scholarships were athletes and PhD students. So I had a scholarship, but it only paid for half. I had to have a work-study job to pay for the rest of it. So I interned at the police department. So when I started out, I was directing traffic. I was out there with a hit-me vest. That's what we called them, hit-me vest. Out there with the cones directing traffic. Or at there were 2 entrances to Notre Dame, the east gate and the main gate. And then so that's posted for, there's an officer there at the gates monitoring cars and traffic coming in. And I did that. You start off at the bottom. My son's a chef. When he started off, he was doing prep. But now kids, I have this job from this university. I should be in this position. I should make this much money. What's wrong with you? Sometimes I think we have to take a step back with our kids so that we can move forward. They have to understand discipline and respect. Now, here's how you do that. Think about it like this. Say there's 2 friends that are out playing golf one day. And they come back from playing golf, and they're in the car, and they're listening to the radio, and all of a sudden this beautiful piano etude by Frédéric Chopin starts to play. And as they're talking, they both stop because they're both enraptured by the beauty of the music that they're hearing. And they look at each other, they decide right then and there, we are going to learn how to play piano. Great. So they make a pact that 1 year from today, on this very day, 1 year from now, we're going to come back together and we're going to play that piano etude that we heard from Frédéric Chopin to celebrate our accomplishment of learning how to play piano. So they get home, they go their separate ways. Now, the first friend says, I'm pretty smart. I don't need anybody to tell me what to do or how to think. I'm going to teach myself how to play piano. So he goes and gets a how to play piano book, and he opens it up. He's taking a look. All right, let's figure this out. He goes to YouTube, takes a look at a few videos. Okay, I can figure this thing out. And but then he says, hey, I got tickets to the Orioles. You want to go? Yeah, you kidding me? Absolutely. And he goes to the Orioles games. He comes back. Okay, piano. All right. Hey, Metallica's coming to town. You want to go see them? What? Yeah, awesome. And he goes sees Metallica. And he comes back. Oh, yeah, piano. And he does that whole pattern for an entire year, doing it however he wants to do it. The second friend says, you know what? I'm pretty smart, but I have no idea how to play piano. I need to get a piano teacher. So he hires himself a piano teacher, teach him how to sit at the piano, how to hold his hands at the piano, how to read music. Teaches him that there's middle C to the next C is an octave, flat to third, it's a minor. And then he starts, as he's learning left-handed dependence, he's learning how to do things right. Then he has to learn scales, major scales, minor scales, harmonic minor scales, Mixolydian, Dorian, Phrygian, Locrian, learning all the different modes of playing. And here's the hard part. He has to practice for 30 minutes a day. Sometimes he don't feel like practicing. But he made a commitment. He said, okay, 8 hours in a day, 30 minutes a day, I can handle that. And so even though sometimes he doesn't want to do it, even though sometimes it's difficult, even though sometimes he has to sacrifice other things to practice, he does it his 30 minutes of practicing faithfully. A year goes by. Both friends come back and they're sitting down to play the piano at 18. Now the first friend is playing the notes, but he can't articulate what he's hearing in his head. He can't get it across on the piano in the way that he wants to. The second friend, however, is not only playing the piece, but he's adding dynamics. Little fortissimo here, little pianissimo here, right? Little dynamics that's not in the original piece. He's just adding these things because he's feeling it, right? He's feeling the piece. Now, I ask you, which one was freer? Which one of those two were freer? The first one was freer? How so? He did what he wanted, but could he accomplish what he was attempting to do? No. Who was freer? The second one. The second one who got the piano teacher. The second one who humbled himself enough to recognize that he doesn't know everything. The one who disciplined himself and said, I need to practice every day even though it's hard. He was able to accomplish. In fact, think about it like this. I remember my brother-in-law was dating an opera singer in Portland. And there was a violin chair that became open. So he got me in with his girlfriend, the opera singer. They got me into the tryouts. So I've never seen this before. So here you have 3 judges sitting behind a paneled wall, and they're just calling numbers 1, 5, 7. And these violinists are coming in, and they're all playing the same 3 pieces of music. Now I'm listening. I'm not hearing any mistake. These are Juilliard, Oberlin trained musicians. I'm not hearing any mistakes. So you have to ask yourself, how do they know which one they're going to pick? How do they know? I mean, if they're all playing flawlessly, they don't know what color, race, or gender they are. They're just people just playing music. How do they know which one they're going to pick? Because besides just not making mistakes, what else are they listening for? Can the person express themselves through the music? That's what they're listening for. They're listening for passion. They're listening for conviction. That's what they're listening for. And the way you get there is by practicing. So think about it like this, okay? Let's switch it to athletics, right? Because you guys do badminton and all that stuff. So imagine Michael Phelps, right? Michael Phelps says, I want to be the greatest swimmer ever. So he goes to the coach, like the first friend did. A coach that says, well, Michael, you're already great. Here's your trophy for 10th place. Michael, you could do this any way that you want. So if you feel like swimming some days, go ahead. If you don't feel like swimming other days, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what you eat. Just eat whatever you want because you're just going to burn off in the pool anyway. You know, would he go to that coach or would he go to a coach? I want to be the greatest swimmer ever. You want to be great, Mike? It means sacrifice. That means you're going to have to get up at 5 o'clock every morning to do your first set of workouts before you go to school. Then after school, you got to spend hours in the pool 6 days a week. That means you can't be on your social media whenever you want. You can't play video games whenever you want. You can't hang out with your friends whenever you want. You can't eat whatever you want because we have to turn your body into a machine. Which one would he freely choose to be his coach? The second one, what do you mean the second one? He has to sacrifice? Yeah, he would choose the second one. Why? Because he wants to be great. And my friends, if we talk about the church is our music teacher. The church is our coach. And here's the problem. When we teach kids the faith, the problem we say is that you can't do this. You can't look at porn. You can't drink. You can't do drugs. You can't. When we teach the kids the faith that way, all they hear, this is a bunch of rules and regulations and moral codes that restrict my freedom. Meanwhile, we're telling them that while the culture is saying, come on, you want to be part of that faith that's taking away your freedom? Come over here where you can do whatever you want. No. What we should be teaching them by being their teacher and their coach is not what you can't do, it's what God's love frees you to do. It's who God's love frees you to become. The reason why you do all those disciplines is not to take away your freedom, it's to help make you more free. That's the contradiction. The culture says it takes away your freedom. That's a lie. It's exactly and that's what we call virtue. All the things that Michael Phelps did, we in the church, we call that virtue. We think that sex is amazing, that sex is awesome, that it's great. But it takes place within the context of a covenant relationship of intimate, personal, loving, life-giving community. We're not using each other as objects for pleasure and gratification, but that you're seeing each other the way God sees you. You're with a person who will literally give their life and die for you. Drinking's not bad. Jesus, I'm sure, drank wine, and just like everybody else did back. There's nothing wrong with that. But drinking till you're drunk, like pass out drunk, or get behind the wheel of a car while you're drunk, and everybody thinks that's cool, because you can end up killing yourself or someone else. So it's not about what you can't do, it's what God's love frees you to do, whose God love frees you to become. That's the understanding. Does that make sense? And these are the kinds of lessons that our young people need to hear and to understand, and most importantly, to start to live out. And they start living that out by our example to them. Now, let me give you some practical things on how you can do exactly that. First of all, one of the things that we did, we had family nights. All right, so 168 hours in a week. We spend 1 hour a week doing something together as a family that didn't involve television or video games or something like that. So 1 hour a week. Now, I remember and the kids end up loving family night. And I remember what we did was every kid we all took turns picking what we got to do as a family that night. And I remember the twins were old enough to pick, and Benjamin, he's my only son. So Benjamin, was his first time to choose family night. I think he was 4 or 5. And we had a group of a family of raccoons living in a tree in our front yard during that time. Listen, okay, Benjamin, it's your turn to pick family night. What are we doing tonight? And he's so excited. He's like, let's beat the raccoons with a stick. Benjamin, no. We're not going to do that, son. Okay, how about Monopoly? There you go, buddy. Right? Kids, because you're trying to build memories in your children's hearts that they're going to take into their own families one day. Let me give you an example. One of the games that we played during family night was something called Heads Up. Now, I've never heard of this game before. It was Claire's turn, our oldest. It was Claire's turn to pick, and so Claire said, let's play Heads Up. So I said, what is that? We take an iPad, you put it above your head, and these words come over. And so the kids are acting out what this word is. My job to try to figure out what the word is based on their thing. And if I get it right, I flip it down, the next word comes up. They act it out, I guess, down next. So I'm like, oh, okay, I think I could do that. And so we're playing. I'm just crushing it. I'm like, yeah, I'm good at this game. Until we got to a particular word. Now, what happens is the iPad, it records everything. All right, records what's happening. Now, the word was straw. Like straw, drinking straw. But they went, and I went, sip, drink, for slurp. I couldn't get straw. I don't know, it couldn't read. And so finally, one said, Daddy. And I said, get high? Just as a joke. And they fell out laughing hysterically. And all they wanted to do almost for the rest of the night was go back and look at that video again. Look what I did when Daddy said that. I mean, and here's the thing. I told that story once while a couple of kids were there, said, Daddy, we still have the video. Now, they kept it. This was like 12 years ago or something like that. And I have the video right here. Right? And so first of all, it's great to see my kids this young. They're all adults now, but Benjamin must be 9 here. Then Angela's 11. Claire's probably 13. And let me see if I can play this for you. Making glass. Blowing glass. Getting high. they all dropped out of the picture. They all fell down laughing. And the fact that they kept this tells me that these are some of the memories that they remember from. They don't remember fights between mommy and daddy. They don't. What they remember is family. So we have to create experiences for our children that they will bring into their own families one day. One of the things you have to do, parents, you got to go on dates. Leave the kids home. Go on a date night. Because here's what happens. Everything's cool before you're married, and then you get married, and sometimes, again, I'm not saying everybody, but sometimes it happens in your head, okay, now that I've got that part of my life done. We're married now. Now I can focus on my career. Now I can focus on this. And the priority gets shifted. What's the priority should always be? God, family, everything else. That's always the priority in families. But sometimes the job and your promotion, and now you're making money, and now all these other pressures sometimes this could get out of order. And sometimes job, work, things takes the place of God, and God kind of slips down on the list a little bit. So now, okay, we can skip mass and just go twice next week. Or, I've been in confession a long time. God understands. We start making excuses. And here's what happens if you keep doing that. It becomes about managing the marriage. Who's going to drive the kid here? Who's going to pay this bill? What about the mortgage? What about this? It becomes about managing. And what happens is the last kid leaves the house, you look at each other and go, who are you? Because you haven't spent time working on your marriage. So what you have to do is start having date nights. Now, we did this even when the twins were young. We had to get 2 babysitters, one for the older girls and one for the twins. And we go out to dinner. And of course, okay, the first 5 minutes you're talking about the kids because that's what you have to do. You're always talking about the kids. In fact, one time we were talking about the kids, and someone came up to us, and this is Portland, right? Someone came up to us and said, well, you know how that happens, right? Just trying to be smart aleck. And my wife took a bite of her salad and said, without missing a beat, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And she kept eating. Right? I was like, okay. You have to have time for you. So what we do on date nights, we talk about the kids. Then we say, how are we doing? Are we okay? Anything we should be talking about? Because what you don't want, see, here's what happens. Like guys will work in a garage or something, or working on some woodworking, and they'll get a little cut. They'll be like, no big deal, no big deal. And then a few weeks will go by, ooh, that kind of hurts, it's turning red. I know, but I just put some alcohol on it. No big deal. Then they notice that the red is starting to spread through about a month later, the red is spreading through their hand. And now they're having trouble moving their pinky. And the wife notices this. What's going on? Nothing. Probably, I don't know. She goes to the doctor. No. I'll just wait a couple weeks. Finally, his hand is hurting to the point he can't take it anymore. He goes to the doctor. Now it's been about 6 or 7 weeks. He goes to the doctor. The doctor says, man, your hand's infected. What happened? And he's like, he can't remember. And the same thing can happen in marriage. Those little digs. I make more money than you. I should be making a decision about what happens here. All you do is stay at home with the kids. All those little digs, all those little jabs, all those little things like an infection. If you don't deal with it, it's going to start to spread. And then you're going to be at a point in your marriage where you never thought you would be. You're going to say, how did we get here? You're not going to remember. You need to spend time working. Let me tell you one genius thing, because I'm a typical guy, okay? I don't like to have long conversations about, okay? I'm a guy, okay? So here's what my wife did. And she's a psychologist, so she has a private practice. She's really smart. So she got, it was a vase. I must have gave her flowers for her birthday or Mother's Day or Valentine's Day, but she kept the vase. And she put slips of paper and a pen. And so here's what we do. Like if I did something to piss her off or vice versa, we write it down instead of arguing about it and getting into it. Because here's what happens, right? She's upset about something. She comes to me. Or I'm upset with something. And so maybe over a little thing. Like, for example, here's a good real-life example. I came home from the airport because I didn't want to call my wife. My flight was late. I didn't want her to pick me up that late. So I got home, I got out of the lift, and the light was on in the van. Because the kids were younger there, so we said the van back then. So I said, the dome light was on. I said, all right, that's not good. because they could kill the battery, you know? So the next morning I said, hey, hon, I came back last night, the light, the dome light was on in the car. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, because the kids were reading, and, you know, the rule is when we turn down our street, we turn the lights off, and right? We had groceries I must have forgot, you know, and I forgot to check to make sure that's okay, no problem. So a couple weeks later, I come back and the light's on again. And so the next day I said to my wife, hey, hon, lights on in the van again. You know, the only reason I'm bringing it up, I don't want the battery to die. You have to deal with AAA, whatever, when I'm gone. You know, just make sure the light's off. Then she starts getting upset. Well, if you were here, Mama, you could turn the damn light off. Oh, ooh, and now we're in it, huh? Over a stupid light in the van. Now, why are we arguing like that? Because it's more than just the light in the van, isn't it? So what my wife did was, when we got upset, was you write it down. Like, for example, I wish you would fold the laundry quicker so the kids' clothes wouldn't be wrinkled. Put it in the vase. Instead of coming to me, she'd write it down, put it in the vase. Then I'd see, did you do something that upset me? I write it down, put it in the vase. Or good things. Write it down, put it in the vase. One good thing I did once. Now, because of my parents, now, because of my parents' situation, I am not a guy that's overly affectionate, because I never saw my parents showing affection to each other. So I'm not an overly affectionate. I'm not blaming them. I'm just not an overly like a hugger. That's not me, okay? I'm the guy on the plane that when I sit down, I cannot get my earphones on fast enough so the person won't talk to me. That's me, okay? But I realized that I had to kind of break out of this. It's fine when you're in a monastery. You don't have to talk to anybody there. But when you're in a marriage, different thing. So I said I had to go out of my comfort zone. And my wife craves affection, right? Houston, we have a problem. I don't crave affection. She does. So now I have to go out of my comfort zone to show her affection. So one day I was grocery shopping, and they had roses on sale. I said, ooh, I'm going to get some roses. So I got her a dozen roses. And then, of course, I had to go get chocolate because I ain't stupid. If you're getting roses, you got to get chocolate, all right? So I come home. I put the chocolates there. I arranged the vase. I even cut the things off and put them in and put that stuff in the packet and everything and had all arranged. So the kids come home from school, and they look at it and they say, Claire, Daddy, what did you do? Honey, I didn't do anything. I just want to show your mom how much I love her, right? And so now, you know, the kids are all excited. So my wife comes home, and the kids are waiting at the door. Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. They're dragging her into the door, and they look, Mommy, look. And she looks at the table, sees the flowers, the chocolate. She looks at me like, what day is today? You know, like, did I forget? I said, no. I just want to show you how much I love you. So she goes over and she smells the flowers and she gives me a big old hug. And the kids are watching all of this. Now, when I thought of that, I did not even think about the kids. I thought I'm going to do something nice for my wife. But the residual that came out of that was the kids saw that. And they saw the affection that my wife had for me with it. And they see that, and it did something to them. You see what I'm saying? So these are the moments that create. So you have to keep working on your marriage. So what we do with the vase. So we'd have a mini date night. We'd have an in-house date night. Put the kids to bed. Then I bring my wife. My wife loves Thai food. So I brought home Thai food. And as we're eating, we're going through the vase. So we take the thing out of the vase. I wish you would fold the kids' clothes. Yeah, you know what? I was working on a homily. I got inspired. You know, I had this idea. I had to get it down, and I totally forgot about the clothes. And that's my fault. Next time I'll hit record and record it and then do it later or something. And then, you know, we go back and forth over things that upset each other. Because now, think about it. Several days have gone by. The anger and anxiety you feel has gone away. We're having dinner, an enjoyable experience, and we're going through the vase. Oh, okay, not that big of a deal. And also the good things. I love when you brought me those flowers. Yeah, you like that? Well, I'm going to keep doing it. Right? And then we watch Netflix or something like that, a movie. It was genius because now I don't have to spend hours like trying to break my heart open to explain to her why I'm the way I am and that kind. I mean, we're taking care of the infection right on the spot. And now we don't even use, we're so used to communicating with each other now, I wouldn't even use the vase anymore. Because it's just natural for us just to talk about things now, which is definitely not me, but it's become me. Why? Because as a man, as a husband, and as a father, my job's to die. And I told my wife, you want me to share my heart the way that you want me to? It's hard for me to do it, but I will do it. But here's my condition. You can't be talking to your friends about, we're not talking about anything bad or anything illicit or anything like that. But it's just that I'm sharing my heart. My heart, when I stood at that altar, is for you, not for your friends. So in order for me to, to share the way you want me to share, you have to promise me you can't be talking to your friends. Because you know how women, sometimes like, oh, you can't believe my husband. They're so proud. They're so joy that and they want to share don't do that. I'm not afraid like secrets are going to get out. Like, I'm not worried, but my heart is for you, not for them. Right? Next, engage your kids with corporal works of mercy. They have to see that when Jesus says, feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, clothe the naked, those aren't just nice words in a book. He actually expects us to do it. One time, I came home from work, and my wife was with all 4 kids, because by the way, when we had the twins, we had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and newborn twins. Yeah, okay? So the kids were a little bit older. I think the twins, Claire was 6, Angela was 4, and the twins were 2. I came home from work with her. How'd it go today? She goes, get them out of here. One of those days. So I said, come on, kids, let's go with daddy. So I took them to dinner to Panda Express. Now, this particular Panda Express in Portland is near the airport. It's called, an area called Cascade Station, right on the same street as the airport. And so we go there, and across the street from the Panda Express is the light rail system. So we're in there. The twins are in the high chairs, and we're just having a little dinner. And the train stops, and a group of goth kids get off the train. Now, these are homeless teenagers, and we call them goth because they wear all black. Like, they're all dressed in black makeup and eyeliner and nail polish, everything black. 3 of them break off from the main group, come inside the Panda Express, and start going through the garbage looking for food. So I see this. Kids, stay here and watch Daddy. So I get up and I walk over. I don't get too close, not because I'm afraid of them. I don't want them to be afraid of me, right? I said, hey, guys, you hungry? Now, why would I ask them that when I saw them going through the garbage looking for food? Why would I ask that? Think about it. Remember the man who was born blind? And Jesus coming. Hey, Jesus coming. Jesus, son of David, have pity on me. Shut up, fool. He don't want to talk to you. That's Jesus, man. Remember, he cries out louder, Jesus, son of David. Jesus brings him over, right? And I can imagine the scene, standing there. He's looking at Jesus, and Jesus says, what can I do for you? What do you mean, what can you do for me? Give me a ham sandwich. I'm blind. You're the Son of God. Hello. Why would Jesus ask him? It was obvious what the guy wanted. And why did I ask, even though it was obvious that I saw them looking for food? Why? So they can have the dignity of asking for help, right? So they looked at me, when I said, they looked at me like, why is this guy talking to us? So I said, look, I'm Catholic. And we believe Jesus' words when he said, feed the hungry. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over to the register, and I'm going to tell the cashier that I'm going to buy dinner for you and your friends outside. So I'm going to give him my card. You go get whatever you want. Make sure you get enough for your friends outside. So they're not moving. So I walk over to the register. I tell the person what I want to do. He goes, no problem. And he waves them over. And so they make their way over to the, you got to start with the rice and the noodles and work your way around. And as they're going over, walking, they're looking at me. Why are they doing that? Yeah, to make sure I don't change my mind, right? Because the only people they can trust are themselves living on the street. So as they're getting the food, I said, don't forget to get enough for your friends outside. And they walked outside, and before they left, I said, okay, I just want you to know that's my kids over here, my family. I want you to know we're praying for you guys tonight. And they left, and I went and sat down. And I said to my kids, what did Daddy do? And Claire was crying. Daddy, I was scared that they were going to mug you. Okay. Anybody else got an answer? Anybody else? Then Angela, who I call Boop Boop, Angela said, I'll never forget as long as I live. She said, you did Jesus. You did Jesus. I said, that's right. So when Jesus says, and you've heard this, feed the hungry, drink the thirsty, clothe the naked, we have to do what Jesus says. So I want you to do what you saw Daddy do tonight. Now fast forward. Claire's a senior in high school. She got an academic scholarship to college. I came back from the Lenten mission speaking circuit for Lent, and I'm home for Holy Week. My wife sits down with Claire and says, Daddy, we need to talk to you. I said, okay. So we sat down, and Claire says, I'm going to go to college. Yes, you are, baby. I'm so proud of you. You worked so hard, but I want to take a gap year. Now, I had not heard this term gap year before. What I heard was, I want to take a year off and waste my life doing nothing. That's what I heard, right? And so I started to jump in. My wife said, up! Stop and listen. Okay, honey. So Claire was explaining, I'm ready to go to college intellectually. I'm not ready to go emotionally. I just need another year to grow up. Before I said, up. Okay, that's fair. Well, what are you going to do for the year? She said, I want to work with physically disabled children. Okay, so she started working with kids who are so palsied that they can't literally do anything for themselves. They can't feed themselves. They can't do anything. She wants to work with them for a year. Oh, how can you, right? I said, okay. Now, dad hat. I said, okay, honey, I'll support you with that. But I want you also to get a part-time job. I want you to start learning about money and responsibility. So she got a part-time job at a doggy daycare, Noah's Ark. And she did that for a year and went on, and she was ready to go to college. She went off and had a great career until COVID. She had to spend her senior year at home because of the pandemic. So don't get me started on that. Anyway, Angela, the one who said, you did Jesus, to this very day is committed to service. She's 24 years old and still volunteers to read for poor kids at the local library. She's at soup kitchen. She's constantly doing things for service. Not because she has to, because she has to get a certain amount of hours to get confirmed or it's part of the school curriculum. She does it out of love for Christ. Because the example we gave to them as their parents. Oh my goodness, I gotta just pick and choose here. Okay, real quick. What about your adult kids who are out of your house? And you may be going through some serious angst right now saying, man, I don't know what happened. We sent them to the Catholic school and everything, and now they don't go to the... Okay, here's what typically happens at parish missions. Usually it's grandmas will come to me and say, Deacon, my son's away from the church. I don't know what happened. He went to Catholic school. He got confirmed. He was part of youth group. He went to mass with us every Sunday. Then he went off to college, and all these professors with these long letters after their name. Started telling my kid that belief in God are for weak-minded people that needs a crutch to get through life. Unless you can see, taste, touch, measure, or quantify something, it's not real, and all this woke stuff. And and now my kid doesn't go to church, doesn't believe in God. I try to give him a Bible. I try to give him Scott Hahn. I try to give him a catechism. Nothing's working. What do I do? Well, first of all, I say stop working so hard. See, here's the thing. I love me some Scott Hahn. I do. I spoke at 3 Steubenville conferences last year. Dr. Hahn has me come out to guest lecture in classes with the kids. I just did a project with him with the St. Paul Center for Biblical Theology, which will be out later this summer. So I love Scott Hahn. But I told her, your son doesn't know Jesus Christ. He don't care who Scott Hahn is. He doesn't know Jesus. Scott Hahn means nothing to him. You have to introduce your child to Jesus. And I said, what happened at college? Colleges are supposed to be places where kids learn how to think. Colleges are now indoctrination centers where they're being told what to think. That's the problem. I said, you need to introduce your child to Jesus. How do I do that? Do you babysit your grandkids? Yeah. Next time your son calls you, Mom, we have to babysit. Can you babysit the kids? I mean, Janet and I, we need to have a date night. It's been a long time, and can you and Dad watch the kids on Friday? Son, your father and I would love to watch our precious, beautiful grandchildren. And I just want you to know, son, that after Mass today, this morning, after I received Jesus in the Eucharist, I was praying that you be like St. Joseph and lead your family to heaven. Hang up! Don't say goodbye. Don't say another word. Just hang up. Just like that. A couple days later, your son will call back. Okay, Mom, I just want to make sure we're still good for Friday. Yes, son, we're all set. I talked to your dad. In fact, we're willing to keep the kids all night. You and Janet have the whole night to yourself. Mom, that's awesome. Let me tell you what else is awesome, son. After I prayed the rosary today, I was reflecting on Genesis chapter 2, where the man is called to serve, protect, and defend his family. And I pray that you would be that kind of husband and father. Hang up. Don't say goodbye. Don't say, just hang up. Now, at this point, your son is like, what's wrong with Mom? Then Friday comes, the car pulls up, the kid, you greet, oh, come see Granny. Greet your grandkids. Your son comes up to you, Mom, thank you so much. This means a lot to us. No problem, son. We're happy to do it. I just want you to know, when I was in adoration this afternoon, I was reflecting on Ephesians 5, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church. And I pray that you would live your spirituality as a man from the cross of Jesus Christ. Your son grabs your arm and pulls you over to the side. Mom, why are you talking like that? What just happened? He is now coming to you. You now have his full attention. What do you do at that point? Wait a minute, son. Let me go get the catechism and read you paragraph 1868. No. You tell your child about your relationship with Jesus Christ. Son, I know when you guys were growing up, maybe we weren't always the best examples. Sometimes we put sports over Mass, and sometimes we didn't go. We dumped you guys off at confirmation when we went out for a drink, and we never talked about what you guys were talking about in confirmation class. We weren't the best examples, but you know what, son? Let me tell you what God has done in my life, son, since I started praying a rosary every day. Son, let me tell you what God has done for our marriage since your father and I started praying together every day. Son, let me tell you what God has done in my heart since I started spending an hour a week with him in adoration every week, son. Because that's what he wants to hear. That all this theology, faith stuff actually means something in his life every day. That's what he wants to hear. He's not ready for dogma. He doesn't know Jesus. You have to introduce him to Jesus first. And then he'll want more. but he needs to know Jesus intimately and personally first. And the way you do that is by sharing your story and experience of your encounter with Christ as their parents. That's the first place to start. And I got a whole list of other ideas here, but I don't have time to go. So I'll end with a little show and tell. So I was in my law enforcement career for 23 years. As I said, I ended my career as the chief at the University of Portland for 11 years. And when I left to do this full time, the kids gave me this. So they gave me this in 2012, right? It says Daddy's travel bag. Now, when they gave this to me, I looked at my wife. She was like, because I thought it was her idea. She goes, no, this ain't my idea. This is their idea. So I opened it up. I said, what's in here? So the first thing I noticed was that the kids had pictures of themselves in here because they didn't want me to forget what they looked like while I was traveling. So, of course, now everything's on the phones, right? But I still kept their pictures. So this is Claire and Angela, and then the twins, Benjamin and Sophia. So I still, even though we have all the phones and stuff now, but I still keep the hard copies of their little, I think this is grade school for them and high school for the girls, right? So they had that. Then I noticed they also had a calendar with all their birthdays marked on it so I wouldn't forget. But in that respect, God was good. Claire, March 9th. Angela, April 9th. The twins, December 9th. So God is good. I also noticed that they had this little stick figure, this little big popsicle stick, and it has some eyes, and one of the eyes fell off, but it has a mouth and a shirt and pants. And I said, what is this? He said, Daddy, we know that when you travel, you often travel by yourself, so we made you a friend. Now, I have not tried to take this through security with me yet. Imagine walking through the machine. What is this? This is my friend. Are you ever going to let you on the plane? Get off, you nut. So my wife heard that I was talking about what the kids gave me. She realized she didn't have anything in there, so she gave me this. You're a wonderful husband. That's me. Let me read it to you. Hun, everything you are and everything you do makes me feel so safe and cared for. There's almost no greater words that a man can hear from his wife is I feel cared for by you and I feel safe with you. I love being loved by you. I love you, love Colleen. Now, when I travel, I often have to travel when I don't want to travel because the bills don't stop, right? Like during the summer, like now, like I said, it's rare that I do parish missions during the summer because in America, everything shuts down until the fall. Then school starts again, RCIA starts again, everything starts up again. So during the summer, I travel overseas quite a bit. So I was on a tour to the Philippines. Those are Filipino friends. I was the Philippines. That year it was the Philippines and Malaysia and Singapore and Australia. So I was gone for a couple weeks, and I missed my birthday. So when I got back, and I keep it wrapped in plastic now, this card was waiting for me on my desk. This was made by Sophia, or the ultrasound said twin B. Okay, so she made it. It says Daddy with the sparklies on it, you know, and it has a tie because she knows that Daddy speaks. He wears ties when he speaks, and it says on the back, "Made with heart, made with love," and inside is this handmade card stencil. I heart you, right? She made this all herself, and then there's a note right here. Right, here's what the note says: Daddy, I love you so much. The amount of stuff you do for our family is endless. I hope you enjoyed your birthday even though we didn't do much. You are smart, funny, and extremely hardworking. I couldn't ask for a better dad. Love, Sophia. Now, when I was working my job, because I was also a threat assessment expert, so I trained at FLETC, I trained at Quantico, I taught contemporary threat assessment methodology at the police academy. I was teaching police officers and first responders for identifying and responding to threats of terrorism. I was doing tactical training for pod insertion teams for active shooter scenarios. That was my life. And when I was doing that, this didn't happen. When I listened to God speaking to me in adoration and said, I want you to leave to do a different type of threat assessment for souls, I was like, nope. I said, Jesus, I'm quite comfortable where I am right now in my life. And Jesus directed my gaze to a crucifix in that adoration chapel that day in 2011. And he said, if you want to take a relationship with me to the next level, you've got to get uncomfortable. And long story, but that led me to make a decision in 2012 to leave my career, 23 years, and start doing this full time. And my biggest regret is I should have done it sooner. Because not only am I feeling the most fulfilled I've ever felt in my life, not saying I love what I did in law enforcement, that was great. But my marriage has never been better. 30 years we've married this year. My marriage has never been better since I left that job 12 years ago. My relationship with my kids has never been better since I left that job 12 years ago. Traveling around the world and writing 6 books and doing EW, that's great, but nothing is better than what it did for my family. So I end with this, my friends, this first talk, and we're going to jump into I'm excited about the next one, too. You know, the great American writer Mark Twain once said, the 2 greatest days of your life, the day you were born and the day you find out why. I want to encourage and challenge each of you, parents, by your lived example, to help your children discover their why. Amen. Thank you all very much.